What's up guys, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Morgan. I make videos talking about my career change to UX design, how you can change your career to UX design as well, and the pain of existence. So if that kind of content interests you, make sure to hit subscribe. So today I'm going to talk to you about the basics of making a case study, a good case study. And I'm just going to let you know now that this video turns out to be all over the place because I made up a project on the fly. But I will make a much more structured video in the future, and I will also be making a video actually creating a case study with you guys. So I still recommend you watch the video. There is good information here, but I go off the deep end a little bit, so apologies in advance. For those of you who don't know, I come from a boot camp, and we're all sort of taught this process of how to create case studies, what should go in it. That creates a lot of just going through the motions type of case studies where people think like, yes, because user personas are part of the design process that I was taught, they must be included in every case study, or I must absolutely do low fidelity designs regardless of the situation. That's not true. I'm going to take you through what you should keep in mind, how you can structure your case study, but I want to tell you right now that case study, you're supposed to basically tell a story of your project. You don't have to include every single data point, every single detail, and I'm going to take you through basically how to save time with your case study and how to make it the best case study that you can make it. Also, if you don't know, I only had conceptual case studies in my portfolio when I was hired. It's what my portfolio presentation was about. I'll put the video up here somewhere. Case studies are really important. They are the best way to get your hands dirty. And if you've seen my videos before, then you know that I always recommend that you try and work with a local business. Maybe their website needs a revamp. Maybe you think that they could really solve a serious problem by having a mobile app, but make sure that you're solving a problem of some sort. So even if it's just something as simple as their website is antiquated, it's not easy to use, UX designer, baby. Work with small businesses. If your friend has a business idea, I feel like everybody has at least one friend who has like a business or like an app idea or something, and you can help them out and include that as like contract experience because you are designing for someone, regardless of if you get paid or not. So just remember that. You can also get experience by doing design jams. You'll get experience working with another person. Those are just a few tips of ways that you can get more real life case studies. But if you have no options, for whatever reason, then here is how you can make a good conceptual case study. So first, you have to find a problem or an opportunity. So the best way to do this is to look around in your real life. Maybe you have a hobby, maybe you have people in your life that you see a problem that they come across a lot. That's what I dealt with. Basically, a bunch of my friends are gig workers, and it was tax season and everybody was complaining about how they have to get everything together to try and write things off. And I just kept thinking like, why aren't you guys tracking this year round? And they're like, oh, well, I've got it in like my notes on my phone, but I don't always remember. Or like they'll use an app to track their miles and stuff like that, but they're not able to get everything down. And then they just like dread tax season to the point that they just don't even try to get their write-offs, and then they pay a stupid amount in taxes. So I was like, all right, clearly the solution here is to just track your expenses. But the problem was that they had no motivation to do so. So I decided to come up with a solution, and what wound up happening was I basically treated this project as if it was a real thing that was going to be launched. And I included it in my portfolio presentation, and I believe that it's the reason that I got hired because I worked so hard on it and really treated it like this is something that's going to be launched, and I can't launch something that users aren't going to use. So the problem I was trying to solve was how might I encourage gig workers or empower gig workers to track their expenses year-round and file their taxes in the most efficient way. Sounds boring, but it's something that is needed. So anyway, that is how I made my probably best conceptual case study. So I really recommend you look around in your real life and you find a problem that needs solving. Make sure it's an actual problem. If you can't do that, then you can always make an improvement to a product that you use. The general rule with that is that you don't want to redo something completely. You usually want to focus on just one aspect. So if a product that you use, it needs like a lift and shift, it's very antiquated looking, you can always just fix the UI. You can add a feature that you think would be useful that would really enhance the user experience and be valuable to users. And if you're just completely stumped, you can always get practice by getting a prompt from ChatGPT. You can also use itsthisforthat.com, which is what I will be using in today's video. So, viral marketer for ex-convicts. So I'm not saying that you have to do whatever you land on. Obviously, there were a lot of weird ones that popped up that like you can't really, it's not really a problem. I really recommend you just use this for inspiration. So perhaps a problem is that ex-convicts have trouble finding jobs. They may not have a dedicated resource for them to find jobs that are okay with ex-convicts. So I don't know if that exists. We're just going to pretend like it doesn't. And so the thing that I was given was viral marketer for ex-convicts. And from that, I thought, okay, ex-convicts problems, probably trouble finding a job after getting out of prison, reintroducing them into society, and perhaps an online service that helps connect jobs and ex-convicts is something that I would like to make. It's an opportunity and also solving a problem for ex-convicts. And then I think businesses also get like tax breaks or like benefits from the government for hiring ex-convicts. You know, that's probably another aspect to the business. So there we go. The problem that I found is that ex-convicts have trouble finding a job after being released from prison because I'm completely making this up, but because they don't have a dedicated resource to connect them with businesses that are okay with hiring ex-convicts. So found the problem and opportunity. So then you need to frame that. So my favorite way of framing a problem or opportunity is through a hypothesis. You can also do this through a problem statement or an opportunity statement. So I would probably, because this is something that I would like be building from the ground up, it would probably be a hypothesis. I'm trying not to solve world hunger with this, but if ex-convicts have a dedicated resource connecting them to businesses that are okay hiring ex-convicts or are looking to hire ex-convicts, then we have a lower, what's the word? When convicts go back? Recessive? No. Recidivism. We have a lower recidivism rate. So that's obviously ambitious. I would probably start with something smaller of probably something like if ex-convicts have a dedicated resource to connect them with businesses, then we will see a higher employment rate of ex-convicts. Something like that. This is really an ambitious goal, but maybe what I would do is I would maybe look to work with one prison. If this was real life, I would look to work with one prison. So let's say I work with Rikers Island. I only partner with them and I'm just testing to see like, okay, if we have this dedicated resource, then we will track the rates of recidivism at Rikers Island and the employment rate. I don't actually know if they keep track of ex-convicts afterwards, but that's probably like the route I would go down. I probably should have picked a different example, but you get the idea of how to frame a problem basically. So after that, you're probably going to want to do some market research. You can do this through secondary research, academic journals, Googling things to understand how people are currently trying to solve the problem. So maybe I would Google, if, put yourself in the user's shoes. We kind of already know our target market. We are targeting ex-convicts or prisons. We're probably not going to market directly to the ex-convicts. I'm sure we could, but we're probably going to work with prisons or POs or social workers or whoever is going to help the ex-convict assimilate back into society. So I'd probably Google jobs for ex-convicts, like start figuring out, okay, how would someone actually try to solve this problem? Maybe I would actually try to contact a social worker and say, hi, I'm working on a product that will help ex-convicts get jobs. Can we talk? And try and get information that way. I'm sure that there's a lot of statistics online that you can look into and sort of identify, like, where are the gaps. So you can do this through secondary research, you can do surveys online. I'm sure that would actually kind of be difficult because you're targeting ex-convicts or social workers or very specific people, so that would probably be more difficult. So you might need to reach out to social workers or prisons or whatever directly and actually do interviews. Hi, Editing Morgan. So I forgot to mention that ways that I've gotten survey responses is through Instagram for products for, before I was just looking for people my age who were gig workers, so it was easy to get through Instagram because that was just like my social network. I've also done surveys through SurveyMonkey. There are also Facebook groups where you can fill out surveys for people and they'll fill out surveys for you. Also a good way to get user interviews is Instagram if it's for a demographic that you have access to. So those are some tips on how to quickly get survey responses. If you're really struggling, honestly, don't be afraid to put a little bit of money into the project. I guarantee you that if you get a UX design job, the ROI is good. Once you have an idea of how the problem is or opportunity is currently being solved or seized, you can start looking at competitors. So here's a mistake to avoid, is looking for exact direct competitors right away. Like I said, you should be trying to figure out how is this problem currently being solved. So maybe there is no online product that is not like a government program that connects businesses and ex-convicts. So you might have to, again, speak to social workers. What programs do they currently use? What are the gaps? You can draw inspiration of the good parts. So a mistake that I made, and you can go watch me roasting my very first case study, I sort of already had a solution in my mind, and that's a problem. You should just be looking for how are people currently trying to solve this problem, and they might not even be Googling. Maybe they're using newspapers, maybe they're getting jobs through word of mouth, maybe there are programs in their communities that people are using. You can also look into how are people not solving this problem? What issues are they running into? Are there things about the current products out there that are deterring people from trying to get jobs? Are there outside forces that are stopping ex-convicts from getting jobs? So you might have to work that into your solution somehow. From there, you really want to define your user persona or your target market. Like I said, this might be a B2B product. This might be something where I work directly with social worker offices or government programs or prisons themselves, or I might want to be for convicts who maybe don't want to use those programs. Maybe people don't trust those programs or whatever. That's the importance of doing the research beforehand. So define your user persona and or your target market. Kind of already know what my target market is, so a user persona is important in order to, it's sort of like an anchor, and it acts as a guide for how you move forward. It's something that you refer back to and be like, okay, is this actually solving the problem for this user? Is it just fluff that I'm adding in? What do they actually care about? So those are other things you have to think about with a user persona, is like, what devices are they using? Do ex-convicts tend to have cell phones? Is that what they use? Do they use laptops, iPads? Do they use, if they don't have a job, maybe they don't have a device at all and they go to the public library, or maybe there's another program where they use some other device to get online. So those are all things that you also have to understand, so that way you know what your MVP should be. So now that you know what the problem is, you know what problem statement or hypothesis you're trying to prove or disprove, you know your market, you know your competitors, you have your user persona, you should be ready to actually form your concept. So for me, for an MVP, I would probably want to work with whatever organization is actually tracking the success rates of ex-convicts getting jobs and how that affects their lives and the community and everything like that. I'm gonna imagine that's probably social workers or POs. So I'm going to work with a social work office, and let's say that there is an equal split between ex-convicts who use computers, whether they are personal or public, and cell phones. So I would probably want to do a web app, so that way someone can just log in on a public computer, and then if they have a phone, they can also just go on the web on their phone. Probably wouldn't start with a mobile app until we know if this is a success or not. So the concept would be a web app that, I'm making this up as I go, a web app that connects specifically ex-convicts and businesses that are looking to hire ex-convicts. So this is where there is no more type of set structure. So the rest of the steps that I would follow are, once you form the concept, you would go into information architecture and user flows. You would do low and mid fidelity designs, prototype and test, analyze the results, learn, reiterate, and then move on to high fidelity designs. You don't have to do all of that all the time, and you don't have to do it in that order. So for something like this, I would need to know what businesses are looking for in an ex-convict, or what would they be looking for. Like, do certain jobs not want to hire someone with a violent conviction? Maybe they have a client-facing role for them, but they are uncomfortable with someone who has a violent past. That's just a hypothetical thing. So things like that, because this is going to be a two-sided application, basically, where one side is, actually it might even be three-sided, so which makes it even more complex. So you've got the ex-convicts using it and making their profiles, and then you've got the social work organization monitoring that, or maybe setting it up for the ex-convict and tracking to make sure, are you actually applying for jobs? Are you going in for interviews? How can we improve your profile? Things like that. And then there's the business side, the people who are actually posting the jobs and connecting with the ex-convicts and things like that. So I would probably need to understand all of that first. I would need to interview each party and understand what problems am I solving for them, and then try and connect the dots. So for the social work organization, the problem I might be solving for them is helping ex-convicts take initiative in and feeling empowered in getting a job post-release. Ex-convict, obviously, we're trying to get them a job that they're happy with. And then businesses, we are trying to get them qualified ex-convicts and help them understand maybe like the government benefits that they can get from that, or whatever the incentive is for hiring an ex-convict. Maybe the business owner is an ex-convict themselves and they want to mentor people, all of that kind of cool stuff. Maybe that would have been a better idea, is a mentorship connection service. I think that would actually be really cool. So after that, I would probably try and go through some information architecture and go through some user flows for each type of touch point. So for the business, the social work organization, and the ex-convicts themselves, understand what flows make sense for them, what features are actually valuable, because you want to keep it simple at first. And then from there, I'd probably go into some low fidelity designs and then move into some mid fidelity designs in order to start going through the build, measure, learn loop. So once I have the mid fidelity designs, I would probably do some prototype testing for the respective audiences, analyze those results, measure, and then learn. And then of course reiterate based on those learnings. And then once I feel like it's in a good place, people know how to move through the application, we feel like we're really solving the problem, then I would move into high fidelity designs of those user flows. So I know that this feels really disorganized, and that's kind of the point. I don't want you to feel like there's a set structure of how things need to be in a case study. It's just not the case. If you're really trying your hardest and really focusing on providing value to users, you might go through the build, measure, learn loop like 10 times. Obviously, if you're going through it that many times, you may need to rethink things, or you may have just disproved your hypothesis. So things that I would really recommend you do as you move through your case study, Document absolutely everything. You don't know what details are going to matter at the end of your story. You should really highlight areas of highs and lows. Being vulnerable and transparent about the challenges you've come across is really, really important. It makes case studies, regardless of whether they're conceptual or real products that you launched, showing where you had troubles and how you overcame them or how you decided to pivot. Knowing when to give up is also a skill. So showing those moments of highs where, yes, we finally found a user flow that makes sense to this person and they found value in the product. That's awesome, and you should highlight that. But you should also highlight where people might get confused, how you realize that although ex-convicts love this, the businesses don't. And you have to be realistic about the project. So I'm sure there's a lot of legal stuff that I didn't cover. You also have to think outside of UX. How would this business make money? Who am I charging? How would this survive? Do I get government benefits for creating something like this? That's another thing you have to consider. Like, there are things that you need to justify. Why would someone pay for this? Maybe the social work organization can pay me because it helps their business, or I have no idea how it works, but those are things that you need to think through. So in the conceptual project that I was talking about in the beginning of this video, the gig worker tax app, I thought about accountants using that service, giving gig workers basically a QR code to scan, and then the accountants are able to monitor the accounts and file things on time, and then the accountants might pay. Or I also thought about like marketing and how would I educate people on this. So thinking a little bit more holistically is important when coming up with a conceptual project, because conceptual projects, it's really easy to just be like, well, we will do everything for free and it's okay because this isn't a real thing. You really have to think about, if you're creating a product, you also have to remember that that product is your business. There are 2 books I really want to recommend to you that will really, really help you out with this. UX Strategy, I actually have it right here. UX Strategy by Jamie Levy. It's a fantastic book. It will help you with this so much. Really recommend it. Please go out and read it if you're struggling with case studies. And then Lean Startup. I'm not finished this yet. I am familiar with the Lean Startup principles, but this will really help you understand how to cut out waste when doing these products or doing these projects. Great book, really well written. A lot of companies live by this. Really disruptive in the whole innovation sphere. So those are 2 fantastic, valuable books to read that I guarantee will help you. I wish I read them when I was doing my case studies. So I know this was kind of loose, and I know that I was stumbling a lot because I was making up a project on the go, and I'm sure that I would have run into a lot of problems had I really tried to do this. But that's also the importance of trying to solve a real problem in your real life or working with a business. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching. I know that this was all over the place, and I appreciate you sticking with me. As always, if you want to support me, please check out the links in the description. I have discounts there, and by using the links in the description, you really help me out. Please like this video, help other aspiring UX designers find these videos. If you find them helpful, hopefully they'll find them helpful. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.